One of the best tips I also have for someone else to end it on is when you want to communicate something to your partner, ask first if they have the bandwidth. Because we'll go up to them and say, "Oh, I need your help with this and this." First, that's been one of my biggest learnings and one of the biggest learnings for some of my clients. It's like before you go and barf all over them, actually ask them, say, "Hey, I have, I have something to tell you. Do you have the bandwidth?"
Mhm.
And that way they can check in with themselves saying, "You know what? Can it wait until 8 o'clock this evening? Can I just settle down for a bit and then we discuss it?" And everyone's happy. Your partner can give you the full attention. You can actually just, give it to them. And then it's both of you are like, "Oh, we're connecting. This is intimacy. We're intimate again. We're being able to bring what's on the inside out."
Welcome to I Think I Can podcast. My name is Luella Young. I am a woman who believes that we, like wine, get better with age. Age brings us wisdom, intuition, and a level of sophistication that is beyond the reach of youth. I am here to tell you that living a luxuriously rich and fulfilling life is in your reach. I Think I Can podcast will teach you to think differently in order to get different results. Allow me to show you how to do life effortlessly. This podcast is for the woman who is tired of playing by the rules of society, community, religion, parents, and partners. I Think I Can is all about becoming brave, authentic, purposeful, and strong. Listen weekly and you will find yourself living a life you could have only once dreamed of. Thoughts drive our physiology, so channel your thoughts with me into a life truly worth living. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of I Think I Can. Today, I love to introduce you to a wonderful coach, hypnotherapist, and another expert on relationships. Her name is Juliette Karaman, and she is a certified mind and body coach, hypnotherapist. She deals with relationships, sensuality, healing, trauma, and body shame, which is something I'm anxious to dive into because as women, we all know that we've been there, done that, and we want to rid that for good. She also specializes in the reinvention of the most intimate relationship in life, which is that with yourself. With coaching courses, VIP experiences, and retreats, Juliette has guided and mentored thousands of women all over the world for the past decade to rewrite the relationship with self in terms of confidence, their bodies, mind, and spirit using her unique rapid release, rewire, and restore method. Okay, let's dive into it, Juliette. Tell us about your magic. But first, before you do that, tell us how you got here. Why you're doing the thing that you're doing right now.
It's funny, right? Every time when people ask me this, I'm a mom of four kids.
Oh,
I have four
yes.
kids in under 3 years' time, so a little bit cray cray. And they're in their early 20s now, so I'm super proud of the young adults that they've become. But for the longest time, that was my life, right? And it was just like, single focus, children living in a different country from home. Just really focusing on that. And then as soon as they started going to school full time, I started having a little bit more time for myself. Two of my kids are very, very dyslexic. So I went straight into psychology, trying to see how I could help them. So I became a Senko and worked with kids on the spectrum and had a lot of autistic kids, which was really, really beautiful to work with. And then one point, my husband and I kind of didn't quite work out so much. So I divorced him. Muslim guy. Yeah, don't quite do that. People are like, why would you leave a marriage that's so good? You have multiple houses. He gives you everything you love. I'm like, because physically, actually, the moment he said, let's get divorced, it was like something came off my shoulders, like 20 kilos came off my shoulders, and my body physically responded to it. So I had a visceral reaction. It's like, oh, this is the right thing. So fast forward a few years later, I'm in another relationship with a man with 3 kids. So we have 7 children living with us. Everyone has different bedrooms, different schedules, different holidays, different schools, different personalities. And I start fainting. So I spend 9 months in and out of hospital and not knowing what was wrong. So I was trying to keep everyone happy, and overgiving was, the theme. And it was only until I hit rock bottom that I knew that something had to change. So fast forward, co-led conscious sexuality movement in the UK, brought their coaching program to the UK. And really, it kept on being like the next step forward, going and doing shamanic journeys, helping my sister pass over because of having been in a shamanic journey, and on and on and on and on it went. So it's just like, okay, all I need to do is just have the next step and don't even know it, but trust that it will be useful for something.
Trust. That's a huge, following that instinctual guidance and trust it's like, if you can do that and overcome that fear-based response, you're on the right track.
Crazy, right? And I call it free fall, and I've been calling this for a while because it's like you're stepping off a ledge and you really don't know if there's going to be anything to hold you. And I know for a lot of people, our nervous system actually can't handle that. So we need to take little steps. And so over the years, what has happened is that I've become trained in a lot of different modalities. And having helped my sister pass over, my father, and then 6 months later, my mother with euthanasia, really had me dig deep into grief, and knowing that actually that is probably one of the most beautiful gifts that you can give anyone, to be with them at the last few moments or the months leading up to living, them leaving their physical body, and really realizing that, they become one again. So it was that was beautiful, and training a lot of other coaches in different modalities, really getting them to tap into how they hold on to trauma, because we all hold on to some kind of trauma, right? It could be just a remark, the way that someone looked at us, the way they said something to us. It doesn't have to be massive, but it's everything that our body or psyche couldn't handle and couldn't process at that time.
Yeah. I as someone who lost 2 brothers, when I was 16 and in about 21, didn't go to any therapy at all. And it's crazy when you think about it. But that's sort of, back in the day, right? So I think that's what you're saying, is to realize that trauma is still there in your tissues, and we need to release it.
Yeah, and there are lots of ways that we can release it from the psyche, and we can have moved through it. And then what I do notice with a lot of people is that actually then we haven't quite rewired it yet. So then with somatic experiencing and with trauma release exercises, shaking, all these things actually help move it through the body. Because we look at an animal that got scared or that got chased by something. It's terrified. So either it's going to cover and hide, or it's going to run, and it's actually going to get it through their body. So that's why I always do some shaking and some release and some cross body movements as well with my clients, so that it can really
so what would that look like? I mean shake, Like, I mean, is that your method then? Like, what? Tell us about
No,
it.
it's actually, no, that's part of it. That's the
Okay.
restore part. That's really the
Okay.
restore. Yeah. So it's guided it's not guided, it's not quite a meditation, but it's you're conscious. So it's not hypnotherapy, but it uses bits from hypnotherapy, from LLP, and a lot from family constellations so that you
Mm.
start tapping into the
Mm.
parts of you that actually want to speak to you, because there are parts of you that will know what to do,
Mm.
right? What action step to take.
So feeling into the body, would you say that? Like you're teaching your clients, okay, to feel
Yeah.
into, okay.
So I'm teaching my clients that any experience, if we bring it down to the basics, has four elements. It has an image, it has a thought, a body sensation, and an image. And once we can duplicate them,
Okay.
that is how we move through them. And I never actually really realized that I've always known this. So I used to have a massive fear of heights, but yet threw myself out of an airplane, and parachute jumping because I'm like, I need to get over this. When I was in a class and I was getting flogged on my back, all of a sudden I remembered that I got raped by five guys, but years ago, and I had buried it. So all the memories came flooding back. I came back to London and I reenacted the rape, but gave it a different outcome with a dom in London. So I've always known that you've had to do this, but I never actually understood it. And now, by bringing all these methods together and actually doing a lot of research on it, that is one way that you can actually move through it.
You mentioned body shame, and I just like, okay,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk about body shame and how
Body
you,
shame is a big one, right? And it's
yes.
also, and a lot of the stuff that I've learned has actually been from personal experience. I lost half my body weight. I lost 70 kilos, which is, I don't know, 150, 160
Yeah,
pounds
and
or something. It's
we
just,
should,
I'm
there
stewed a
were,
bit.
as Canadians, we should be thinking kilos, and we're still stuck in pounds. But no, let's talk kilos. Yeah, but it's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. And also, when I was growing up, I grew massive boobs at one point.
Hmm.
And people would just look at my boobs and it's like, hey, my face is here.
Yeah.
You start hunching over. Then I see it with my clients that, I attracted people that actually have a really good body, but see themselves in a way like no, this
Hmm.
is not, that's not good. And it's all these things, all these ideals that we get from our parents, from society, these days from, social media.
Yeah.
But we have to look a certain way and that we're never quite happy with ourselves and we punish ourselves. And we
Hmm.
are either on diets or trying to squeeze ourselves into into clothes or into something, but not in order to feel the totality of who we are.
Hmm. So
So
how do you get over that though? Because I mean, uh, like, I've worked with a number of clients too with eating disorders and how, you know, let's say anorexia, how, they can walk past a mirror and just see themselves as overweight, for example. Like how do you get into their mind and get rid of that?
real body dysmorphia, right?
Yeah.
So I run a program called Scrumptious Bodies, which is actually takes people through that program. But how I started is by doing this one-on-one by people. So it will start with usually hypnosis and actually going back into what is blocking them, how they are seeing themselves, rewiring that, reprogramming it, and
Hmm.
then slowly asking them, doing a diet to tell me what you love about your body. And
Mm.
often that is very, very difficult, but we'll do that in the beginning of the program. And then after 21 days or however long I spend with them, 3 months, you do it again. So that's one of the things, tell you what you love about your body. Then I get them to do a mirror exercise where actually they look in the mirror and they just bitch, they let it rip.
Hmm.
Because, we'll look in the mirror, we're like, I don't like this. But to really
Hmm.
actively tell your body that you don't like this and you don't like that, etc.,
Hmm.
is really cathartic. Then the next session, I take them through actually physical, um, feeling it. So beautiful music on, doing some movement, and then
Mm-hmm.
writing a love letter to your body. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa, these legs have walked me, have held me, the
Mm-hmm.
stomach and all the stretch marks have borne me 4 children. All of
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's so massively cathartic. And what I
Mm-hmm.
really do see is like, I love doing the one-on-one work here with clients, but what's even better is a group program because it's other women that are going through it. And
Mm-hmm.
other women that will actually just say, this is the brilliance I see in you. This is the beauty I see in you. Oh my God. And
Mm-hmm.
not diminishing what's going on for them, but saying, I hear you. And what I see in you is this. And people are often like, oh my God.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then I actually take them through some TREs and some trauma release exercises to move it through the body. We do a lot of embodiment
Mm.
exercises so that every module we finish on that. We finish on reprogramming and really restoring it.
Mm. So it's mainly group programs you run then.
Yeah,
And yeah, okay. And
yeah.
so it's you do the work in the module and then you sort of give them homework to do on their own.
I give them homework to do. Usually there's a Facebook group so that they can join with other women. A lot of stuff at the moment is um, called Evergreen. God, I'm complete
Yeah.
blank. So
Yeah.
they're evergreen courses that people can tap into. Then often I'll offer like a one-on-one session with them so that they can really go deep and
Yeah.
really find it. But what I also like doing is retreats where
Mm.
we bring women together, right? Or I bring women together, do some embodiment stuff. Obviously, there's a whole stigma around sexuality and sensuality and
Hmm.
all that stuff. So
Hmm.
um, and I'm passionate also about bringing this to children and to younger females, right?
Oh.
Not to be so stigmatized that, we don't talk about sexuality. I
Mm.
moved from Switzerland. I had my two sons in Switzerland, and then we moved to London, moved to the UK, and I had twin girls. And I asked my husband's cousin, I'm like, what do you call vagina? And they're like, oh, because she has 3 daughters, front, bottom. I'm like, what do you call, a butt
Yeah.
then? Bottom. She's like, well, that's bottom. So I'm like, oh, so you've got bottom and front bottom. So well, that's confusing.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's so funny. Like I've never heard of those terms before. Like front bottom, never. Bottom, of course, but front bottom. Oh my
I
gosh.
just, you just think this is what people get
Yeah.
are brought up with. No
Yeah.
wonder there's such stigma and that we don't know what we even like.
No.
We
No.
don't know how we want to be touched. We don't know what to ask for. All we know is that we don't want something. So,
Right.
and how do you turn that around, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you must see the different being from Europe, you must see the different cultures and what they bring too. Like to me, I would think like let's say someone from the UK compared to Latin American or yeah, someone American, for example. I think there's probably all different levels of yeah, stigmatism against the body and what's okay to call, what's okay to name it and what's not okay. And do
But
you
that's
notice?
the beauty. That's the beauty if you come together in a big group like that, or it doesn't even
Yeah,
be a big group, but
yeah.
even like a small group, you'll hear the stories. Like I was married to a Lebanese, so my kids are Muslim, and
Mm,
and the upbringing there is also very different. And within his family, they're all very, very open. But if I see like some friends outside, one will wear hijab and the other one will be in a string bikini. So
mhm.
it's really interesting to see the differences there. And I'm Dutch, and Holland is probably one of the most liberated countries
Yes.
where everyone walks around naked. My mom used to always walk around naked, so I kind of get that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that can also have the kind of like flip side on it, right? Or it's like, oh, I don't want to be like that. And it's
Right.
just to become aware of that programming because it's all
Mm.
programming we have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying then is really sort of tap into yourself and and I mean, I think take ownership of how you want to be, right? Like, because, like you say, there's all different levels, and one is not necessarily bad or good unless you're shaming it. But
Mhm.
if, like, if you say, if you grew up watching your mom walk around the house naked and you're just like, yeah, I'm not available for that. But yeah, just find your own version, but own it and not shame somebody else for it either, I suppose.
Completely. And also realize that it's a journey. What might be
Hmm.
right for you now might not be right for you in 5 minutes or an hour or 3 months or a
Yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
this is the work that I do with couples as well. I get a lot of couples that have been in long-term relationships and I've just kind of like the sex has just kind of like flown out a window. They're great
Yeah. Yeah.
friends, but there's no intimacy.
No.
And we start by taking the sex off the table for at least 3 weeks. But I get them to start putting in date mornings, not nights.
Mm,
Date mornings or date afternoons, because that's when when we still have the capacity and,
exactly.
and to really put the phone away, to dress up for it, to get ready for it, take a shower, to really like court
Hmm.
each other again.
Mm,
Um, and then to communicate, to start with some dyads. So like, tell me what you love about me.
hmm.
What's one fear, that you have about
Hmm.
us or me or the relationship? And then tell me
Hmm.
what you desire. And people are like, what do you mean desire? I don't know what that means. They're like, well, wait, tell me what you want for us as a couple. And once you start opening up that in a way where the other person feels heard and seen and understood, and
Yeah.
that it's just a communication, it's not a conversation, right? We're just going to say thank you, and then we switch and turn and keep this going for about half an hour.
Right.
Um, After that, most of my clients, after week two, and I give them some other exercise, they're like, the homework not to have sex. We haven't had sex in over 20 years, but this has actually brought us closer. And we are starting to actually touch each other physically again.
Right. Yeah. No, that's such a beautiful thing. Like, I know I find the divisiveness in couples usually it's either finances or it's sex. And so you're concentrating more on, yeah, reclaiming or rediscovering their sex life again. But I love the way, like, I think that's really important. You're one of the first people that I spoke to that says, do your date day, not your date night, because it's so true. Like, and let's face it, we're aging. So, I mean, we don't have the mental and physical capacity to yeah, be energizer bunnies late in the day. We lose our mental capacity too. So these conversations, which can be fairly draining, like, yeah, we don't want to do it at the end of the day. So I really like that idea as well. And like, it sounds to me like by discovering your partner again, you are being more attracted to them. Yeah.
Completely.
Yes,
And we
physically.
can't, and that's one of the things, right? I tell them to write a list of 20 things that they loved about their partner when they first got together or now.
Mhm.
And then they share it together in that first date. And it's like we can't hold both the negative and the positive things at the same time in our brain, right? So then the brain's like,
Right.
ah. And it's like, oh, okay, neither is bad or good. So then we can actually live in that polarity. And it's like, oh, okay, nothing has charge anymore. Now I can decide that I can actually see my partner for who he
Mhm.
is and not with all the resentment that I've built up over the years, the little things like he didn't take out the rubbish or he
Oh, I
snored
know.
or this or that, or, you stood me up at a PTA meeting or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But,
Mhm.
all those things actually load in. And if we don't get rid of that gunk, sometimes
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
how that's, the blinders that we see our partners through.
Yes, no, and I speak about resentment a lot. Have you ever found that it's somebody can't drop the resentment?
Yes, I have. And then I'll usually pull them apart and I'll do a session with them.
With a one-on-one, yeah.
I'll do a one-on-one of them and I'll actually just pull it out of them, all the resentment. And I'll
Yeah.
just say, I'm the person, whoever it is, what have
Yeah.
you not told me?
Yeah.
And we call it yeah, resentment pulling, or really just pull it all out of them, let them run it sometimes 20-30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like flushing a toilet that has been clogged with a lot of crap. And all of a
Right.
sudden, but I noticed that my coach at the time when my sister passed away, I was there with her, and she said, Jules, can I go to the light now? Because I'd had a near-death experience, and that's how I explained it to her. I said, this is what it was like for me. I went through a dark tunnel, and then I went up to the light, and I became one with everything again. So, that's what she said. And then I was meant to be holding speech at her funeral, and I was the first one opening it. And everything was more important than writing the speech. And I knew all my tactics. And, I'm like looking at myself going, oh, God. So my coach at the moment at that point said, okay, you know what? You're going to go outside. We're on Zoom. We're on the phone together now. We're just going to pull resentments from you. It's like, what haven't you told me? What do you need me to know? And I was so angry at my sister. And of course, I would never voice that to anyone because I'm like, she's the one that died. I mean, her poor children and her husband. I'm like, why the fuck am I angry at her? But it was like all the things. It's like, man, we were, we owned the ski chalet together. I'm like, we were meant to go skiing later, and I was meant, we're meant to have grandchildren together, and you're supposed to be at my kid's wedding, and I'm supposed to be at your kid's wedding, and all these things that you don't even think about. All of a sudden, they pulled out, and then it was like, oh, now I'm a clean vessel. Now everything can come from. Honestly, I recorded the speech within like 15 minutes, then rewrote it after I listened to it. It was
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a great example. That's a great example. Yeah. Do you find how do you find working with men? Because as you were talking about resentment and pulling things out, I find women hold more resentment than men do. Maybe you feel differently. I find men can kind of go like, yeah, that was really shitty, but okay, like, let's get on with it. Or but yeah.
We women kind of like we're accountants. Yeah, in our heads, we will keep score of what
Yes.
has or hasn't done, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, he's got this beautiful ring, or that, or we had this incredible weekend away. It's like, oh, great, perfect. So he's got brownie points.
Yeah.
But he does one wrong thing. It's like, oh, that takes points away. And it's crazy. We do it unconsciously.
Yes.
But we do it. And men very often will just be like, oh, yeah, I remember that was, we had a massive fight there, but we moved on.
Yeah.
They often hold more of a grudge towards another guy, I've noticed. And not so much jealousy, but something that will have happened work-wise. And often there'll be some other stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, when it goes in, against their, their own values or integrity or something like that. Yeah.
And with them, what's really cool to do is shadow boxing, because they also want to get some force out. So then we'll just do that kind of like, like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's just having a lot of tools.
So how do you do, like with men? I would feel like, I mean, especially, I don't know, I just think especially men from the UK, like, I mean, you're getting them to shake, you're getting them to do shadow boxing in your room with you?
Usually on Zoom. I mean, I have very, very few VIPs, but that is something that we'll do. Like on a VIP weekend, we'll go through everything.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll actually just show them how to do it. And at first they're like, no, stupid. And I'm like, yeah, I know it sounds. But any emotional release, right? That I've noticed that men, once they get the hold of emotional release, and they get punching bag out, or they start punching a pillow, or they throw a tantrum, or they scream in their cars on the way back from
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really they
Yeah.
dig it, love it. Those folks
Yeah.
really, really go for it. And I'm like,
Yeah. 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 No, 100%. I think that's one of the reasons, like, I mean, a lot of men come to me for anger, what they call anger management, right? They know that they need to either zip it up when they're speaking to their kids, their spouse, another driver on the road. They're not happy about themselves at all, and they want to do something about it. Um, but yeah, like it's a different approach with men than it is with women.
completely.
I find that as well. Yeah, they definitely need. Yeah, so if they can think about that incident while at the gym and pumping iron, like yeah, let it go there. Maybe that might help them as well, in terms of release. Whereas women, like, there's nothing like a good conversation, right? There's nothing like a good talk to get it out. Women, I find, flock together and they just love talking, 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 and releasing that way.
Yes, and I also see where sometimes they just talk about what's bad, and then other women also pipe up saying, "Oh, but you don't know what's happened to me." They kind of like where men tried to outdo each other, saying, "Oh, I got this new watch, and look at me, and the this and that." Where women tried to outdo each other in what's going wrong in their lives.
Right,
So
right.
I like to when I see that happening, I'm like, stop. And I want you, like, yes, you can bitch about this, but what is your takeaway now? Because otherwise it just becomes one big bitch party, which I don't like either.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of comparisons, like, yeah, well, look at me. Yeah. You think you have it bad. Well, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Parasites. Isn't it weird how we do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like try to cut the tall poppy out. Yeah. It's like, no, no, no. She's too big for her boots. And of course
Right.
I'm Dutch, so that's how I grew up, right? Where everyone is the same. And if you're a little bit different, no, that's not cool. And of course, I grew up in the States I lived in the States for 2 years, then came back to Holland. So I never really fit in because I was, a bit of everything.
Everything. Yeah.
I was like, but I'm different. I don't want you to box me in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, let's tell us about a couple that didn't really, I don't know, embrace the work, or maybe perhaps were too different. When you gave them, like, write out 20 things that while you got together, like, because I've had this in my office too, where, tell me something about, like, why you love your partner, and they're just like kind of blank, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. Like, have you had that where two people have just grown apart and they're not?
I've had a couple that actually through coaching decided that they didn't want to stay together. But they did it in such a beautiful way because there was actually a lot of love there. But they just realized it's like one person wanted something so different and the other person just couldn't give it to them. So they stayed really good friends, but they got divorced in the end. And yeah, the woman wanted much more intimate lifestyle, and she actually, they hadn't had sex in 23 years time, and he just wasn't willing to try. And yeah, there's this woman that then, through all the stuff that I taught her, she completely turned on, and she's like, yes, and I love this, and I love life with myself, and this, and then he was just like, it's just too much. I want to have a quiet lifestyle, and I don't want to, I just don't see the physical side between us anymore. And although I love you, he was the one that decided it's like, no, this is not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you
Which
can only.
is sad when you see it, but if you can actually uncouple them in a lovely way, they still have lunch together once a month. It's been a beautiful divorce where they've actually instructed the lawyers what was going to happen, just like what I did with my husband. It's like, so there was no fighting, and it was just the most beautiful, conscious divorce where it's like, no, you are my best friend. I've been married to you for like 25 years, 28 years. So what do you mean? That
I know.
one day it doesn't. We still have those feelings. We just, we're actually better apart. Which is what I'm often with my husband, right? My kids are like, well, mommy, why aren't you and daddy together? I'm like, because we're actually better apart. And
Hmm.
they've realized that now over the last 10 years. That
Yeah.
they're like, but it's so cool because over Christmas, my partner and I spent Christmas with him and the kids in Lebanon, in Beirut. So all of us were together, and it was just like a whole blended family. And you get to do that with your partners and with your ex-partners. You get
Yes.
to be able to actually love deeply, um, but in a different way.
I know, and when you say it like that, like it sounds so simple. Like, and but why is it like I do work with, we call it collaborative practice, family law here, and that's what we're trying to do, working with the lawyers, working with the couples, just to like always thinking, let's think of the child here. Let's put the child first. What does the child want? How does the child want you to lead yourselves through this separation and divorce? And but for some people, it's so hard because I think they're in such a pity party and it's all about me.
Yep.
And yeah,
We don't see what their projection is doing to themselves, to their
yes.
soon to be ex-partner, and to their children.
Mm-hmm.
So when Kareem and I got divorced, it was really clear. We said, now listen, we adore our kids. We actually adore each other, but we just, it's, we
We're
just
better
kind of,
apart.
so we grew apart, and it's actually better this way. So we co-parented. The kids went to one and the other, 1 week on, 1 week off, which gave both of us all of a sudden, it especially gave me like a freedom that I'd never had before because
Right.
he used to
How
travel all the time.
how how
And
how old were your kids though when that happened?
my kids, my eldest was 13, so 13, 12, and the girls were 10.
Okay, so that's an interesting time, because
It's a
you're
tough
dealing
time.
with puberty and stuff like that. And so you make it sound easy, Juliette,
It
but
wasn't.
let's be honest. All of a sudden, a week without your children, you must have been like, oh my God, because like you said, that's how you identified yourself for so many years. So do you remember how you led yourself through that first week alone?
It's interesting. I think that first week alone, I went to lots of friends.
Yeah, distracted
Um,
yourself, probably.
distracted myself. Oh, yeah, definitely. In the beginning there, I distracted myself. Then I really started working with kids on the spectrum. So I was like, oh, I put a lot of time in my work as well. Then, of course, I got into new relationships and put a lot of time and effort into
Mhm.
that as well. But I
Mhm.
really noticed where a lot of it was coping mechanisms. And then
Mhm.
I bought a house just around the corner from him. So we were literally 3-minute walk from each other. So the kids, would come in during the week anyway, and they'd forget their school uniform. They'd go from one parent to the other. It wasn't a big deal.
Mhm.
I think the first half year we probably didn't have dinners together with the kids, but then after that, that was just a weekly thing. I'd come for dinner, he'd come for dinner, we'd have lunches together with
Mhm.
partners at one point. So it was just like the kids were used to still seeing us together. And
Mhm.
we had a call every week together to co-parent, saying, "Hey, this is what's going on." And at first, it was just things like school uniforms. Oh, she's
Yeah.
missed her school uniform. Can you drop it
Yeah.
off? These kind of
Yeah.
things. And then
Yeah.
it was like, "Hey, they're actually struggling with this." We'd go to counselors together with the kids so that they also understood it's not
That's so
about
nice.
you. It's
That's
because all four of them thought it was all about them, that they did something wrong, and that's why
right.
mommy and daddy aren't together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to lead others through this as well with their children, just actually bringing all the unconscious, everything that's hidden, bring that out and actually
Hmm.
have a discussion about it, have a communication about it, let them have their say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been called on the footstep there. It's like, Mommy, we need to talk to you. So all four of them go like, we don't like this. I'm like, whoo, okay, four of you gagging up. But it's like, okay. But to hear that communication saying, I don't have to agree with it, but
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. I hear you and
Mm-hmm.
I understand how that feels for you. And I've
Mm-hmm.
got to apologize to my kids for,
Mm-hmm.
I used to run this conscious sexuality movement, and I used to walk around with a t-shirt saying the pussy knows. My 13-year-old boys were like, Mommy, what the hell? 13 and 14-year-old are like, really?
Yeah.
Do all my friends have to see that? I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah, that's a real duchy.
Right, but
Coming up.
that's the whole thing, right? As long as you can communicate and keep that connection to them.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't always know how to do this the best way. And oh yeah, the boys were found that quite difficult. So for a while they kind of like retracted a little bit. And I've worked hard on having a good relationship with them again. And
Hmm.
that's just been beautiful over the last few years, seeing how they've all come into their own, how they now are much more conscious, how they have really good boundaries with people, how
Hmm.
when they see someone treat someone wrong, they will speak up about it. So it's
Hmm.
just really beautiful to see like where I've done a lot of work, it's rubbed off on them. Where I've
Yes.
done work to clear my trauma, my sexual trauma, it's had it be that my daughters don't have to have it.
Right.
Clear
Yeah,
sexual trauma for my sister, for my mother, for the past generation, where you start doing the work for that as well. So they
exactly.
don't need to carry on.
Yeah, the legacy, right?
Yeah, and
That's,
that's
yeah.
just that's the work that I love doing with people as well, where it's like, yeah, let's tap into that a little bit. Let's see what we can clear.
So I'm being cognizant of the time. Let's end it with how you feel about parenting adult children. First of all, are they in your home still? And because it's a challenging time for that too, I
Oof.
find. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it completely is. No, at the moment, three of them live abroad. Really, the third one has just moved abroad. One's coming back. So my eldest lives in Dubai and is has his first job there.
Mm.
Uh, so that was kind of like, oof, he left.
Mhm.
My second one has just moved to Beirut and is moving to Nigeria and
Wow.
is going to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah.
Very toxic, but I'm like, go for it, follow your dream.
Yeah.
Then one of the twins is in Madrid, but coming back in next month. And then her twin sister is living in London. So they're going to be living together.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I was in London with my one daughter, one of my twins yesterday, which was just wonderful.
Oh,
Because
nice.
I moved outside the countryside after all the death and everything. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but
Well,
yeah,
I mean, it sounds like you're parenting, a little bit from abroad, but still very much needed. And
yeah.
yeah,
And
but
it's weird, right? I mean, when the kids get older, you kind of want to help them as much as you can, but also have them have their sovereignty. That's all
exactly.
my parenting styles. Let them be sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a fine line where it becomes like, oh, mommy, she doesn't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's a
Right.
bit like, oh, yeah, so I'll text them and I'll leave them voice messages. But
Yeah.
I won't constantly call because I just know how annoying it can be.
Or even like financially supportive of them. Like there's also, that's a tough line too. It's of course we want to support you. Of course we want to give you a good start. However, you need to start generating your own financial support, right? And educating them at a very early age on that too.
Completely. And
Yeah.
that, I must say, that now my second son, it's like, yeah, darling, your weekly allowance, this
Yeah.
is the last month.
Yes.
After that, that's it. You're on your own. And it's kind of like tough, right? But at the same time, it's like, hey, no, you are now, you're almost 24. So it's time for you to really make
It's
your
time for
mark.
you to fly. I know, and I feel like that's one of the hardest parts because I mean, if you were raised like I was, I mean, we were paying for our own university. When did we get our first car or even to think our first house? And yeah, we were alone at such an early age. And in here, it's very different. I mean, they're pampered and well taken care of, almost like till our mid 20s versus maybe 18. So it's just it's
It's different, right?
Very
It's also
different.
it's that generation, so they got like gold stars for showing up. That's
Exactly.
something, right? So it's a little bit like, hey, but yeah, I'm just showing up, and it's like, oh, okay. I don't want to say that that was wrong either, but we kind of went from where like we had to, really like do things to like,
Yeah.
well, be darling, and I'm, yeah, kind of like conscious of both of them, and it's just like, no.
Right.
Now it's actually this is you step into your sovereignty.
Right.
And my eldest son, he needs to pay his rent 6 months in advance in Dubai or a year
Mm.
in advance, which is it's not an easy one, right?
Right.
So I helped
Yeah.
him with the first 6 months, and then I said, "That's it. Now, you're going to have to put money on the side each month." So when
Hmm.
it came to the next 6 month renewal, he was like, Mommy, can I just borrow, $400 and I'll get them back to you next month. But I couldn't quite make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. But,
Right.
so this month he's actually paid me back. And it was like, oh, it's those little things where normally I would just forget about it. But this time I kind of said, oh, you did owe me some money.
Hmm.
For him to start becoming responsible is to actually then enforce my boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. The whole boundaries piece. Well, that's a whole nother episode. But I think
Isn't
that's,
it?
yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's another, just another layer of what you're teaching. It's our own sovereignty as well, regarding boundaries. So,
But
yeah.
boundaries is never about how others treat us, and then but it's just you have your own boundaries, and you take yourself out of the equation when people treat you in a way that you don't like. And
Right.
that's what I keep telling. Like I keep giving good examples, like when my kids are speaking to me in a certain way, or when someone speaks to me in a certain way, saying, "I'm going to go to the other room now and take care of me."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'll come back when it feels like you know how to.
Right.
How
Right.
you and I know how to communicate. At the moment, I need to take care of me, not
Right.
like requesting, oh, I only want you to speak to me in a certain way. It's like, no, I'm going to take care of myself.
No, that's a nice little tip to leave our audience with is I like that. I'm just going to take care of me. I'm going to bring my central nervous system down to where it should be. And then, you reflect as well, and maybe we can continue this conversation later. Um,
That's probably one of the best tips I also have for someone else to end it on is when you want to communicate something to your partner, ask first if they have the bandwidth. Because we'll go up to them and say, "Oh, I need your help with this and this." First, that's been one of my biggest learnings, and one of the biggest learnings for some of my clients. It's like, before you go and barf all over them, actually ask them, say, "Hey, I have, I have something to tell you. Do you have the bandwidth?" And that way they can check in with themselves, saying, "You know what? Can it wait until 8 o'clock this evening? Can I just settle down for a bit and then we discuss it?" And everyone's happy. Your partner can give you the full attention. You can actually just, give it to them. And then it's both of you are like, oh, we're connecting. This is intimacy. We're intimate again. We're being able to bring what's on the inside out.
I know when you say it like that, like it just makes so much sense, right? It's just sometimes we just need to hear those reminders. So thanks for sharing that. That's a great way to end. It's because it's just respecting the other person. Because we're all so busy, and we can't read each other's minds. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. That was beautiful. I've
Okay.
enjoyed it.
Yes, and I enjoyed meeting you as well and listening to all of your gifts, because we all do have incredible gifts to give the world, and you've definitely found your own zone of genius. And yeah, and thank you for that.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
okay, and everyone else, have a wonderful week. I'll see you here next week. Bye-bye. Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege. that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.